Oh wow. I'm a bit nerve-wracked if you know what I mean. Let me see if I get this right. I want to make sure that I have all the tabs open. I kind of want into. It might be a bit of a long stream if you know what I mean. But yeah, I'm really guessing that this episodic series just has that one song running through my head. I'm running, running, I'm running, running. Just because, yeah, I feel like how I describe this. When two counterparts meet, one of them decides to look at the other and's like, I feel like I know that person. Now I gotta run the other way. That's where I feel like I am right now. The heart's beating, and I haven't even done anything yet. Um, yeah, kind of weird. Right? I was kind of nerve wracked all leading up to starting this episode, but the only reason why I'm thinking this is because I watched a video about how new moon is in Leo. I'm a Leo ascendant, but I don't feel like one. Very confident at all. Um, but reminded me of that weird girl from fucking Harry Potter. She was like, being different isn't a bad thing. It just means you're brave enough to be yourself. Uh, where's the goggles? All weird. I don't know why I'm thinking of that chick. Let me see if I can. Oh, I didn't actually set it up. Just making sure that I pop up the browser. Make sure that it's seeable. At least on screen. Alright, cool. So yeah, episode is called America TM. I put it in quotations just in case that I might get sued by the actual like trademark of America. I don't know if anybody knows that in trademark law, America is kind of owned. Like somebody owns the flag. They call him Postmaster General. Might not even say that right because it's like hyphen colon something Russell J. Good hyphen colon. Basically put respect in your mouth because he might sue you, and he wins court cases, so it's kind of a scary guy. But America the trademark. I wanted to talk about it in terms of this in a way this opposite episodic series where I want to discuss the vehicle and just the way that somebody can start a corporation or a company and kind of. I guess a great example is an article that I posted in Telegram where somebody started a company where they harvest these specific cells from celebrities, and then they mix these cells with like forms of animal fat, and then they cultivate them to grow into like meat that you can eat. uh right, just the same way that somebody can have this crazy idea, they could lead an entire company, an entire uh not motto, but like, describe this, you know what I mean, like one person can get a bunch of other people to believe it and fund an entire business with that idea. And in America, I guess, I don't know if people want to see it like this, but the way I see it, when America entered its industrial age, um, I'm not going to say every family or every corporation, but to some degree, there was this nefarious sense of, right? It basically consumed the entire market. Who, what, I don't know. I would say it's various factions, various interest groups who are under the guise of trust or these conglomeracies that join together in order for a single vision of America. And they work together in not just business, but in various aspects to kind of push along through whatever special agenda that they have in mind. And I guess a great example of this is the World Economic Forum and the way that their ideals and their goals transcend any normal means of right. It's not a local thing. They're not just focused on one state. They're not just focused on one country or one province. Their entire goal is to transmogrify the entire world. So I'm just basically putting it out there that America, in some way, was a vehicle used for not just global domination, but global incorporation. Because we did see a lot of, if you didn't comply with certain interest, certain special financial interest groups, we would see that there was a very vested interest in moving along wars and moving along certain war fronts in order to protect and take over a hold of assets in various parts of the country. I guess a great example of this would be Felipe Calderon, the Mexican president from, I don't know, this was when I was going to school in Mexico, so he was the president while I was there. But something that Felipe Calderon and Bush, both alleged Skull and Bones members, was that they had pushed the drug trade out of Mexico. But realistically, what they did was they took out all the manufacturing. They essentially took out any harvesting, cultivation, and pushed it out of Mexico. And I think that's largely due to the fact that it would create too much money for various other factions within Mexico, and it's already right. Just look at what happened after they took El Chapo out. The entire country itself destabilized. So I think the Skull and Bone members were aware that if they had allowed this trade to continue in Mexico, it would be too close to the border that it would become an issue and too much of a direct issue for the American populace. It would have accelerated their plans way too quickly. That there would have needed to be a response. So Felipe Calderon and Bush supposedly, right? This is all allegedly, pushed it out of Mexico and only allowed the people or the populace of the country to essentially only make their money through the footwork, right? And allowing that to exist, but not allowing manufacturing, processing, or harvesting, cultivation, etc., considering that there was a lot of vested manpower in the Middle East to protect certain poppy fields. So yeah, I look at this from a very different view than most people, because I think people get caught up in their everyday to day life that they forget that in order for the dope boy down the street to have his supply and have his merchandise to sell, there's a supply chain. There's an entire process that leads up to the dope boy having the capital he has and having the ability to, you know what I mean, peddle along his wares. And I feel like that's usually lost in a lot of people that want to solve the issue, want to understand the issue, but don't. And then that issue largely gets conflated on the other side of the coin, or the other side of the argument, where it proves race realism and da 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 da. But that only gets to be the way it is because we had very specific cultural events shape the way people saw themselves in terms of their ethnic identity. Because if it was true that you would have these aspects of it would be more of a binary. It would be all or none. We wouldn't have these bell curves, and these bell curves largely being dictated by a variety of other factors. And if you know anything about MK Ultra, psychological studies, and the understanding of the human species, not just as a man but as a beast, and the government projects that went along with them, you would understand that there's a lot more that goes into the creation of man, his personalities, and his culture than just magic melatonin. It gives me magic this and that, and it gives me the wherewithal and the IQ of da 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 da, without looking at the overall greater issues that also occur during pregnancy, that also occur. I could go on, but we get lost in that. But keep in mind that if I'm somebody that could come up with that theory and be able to understand it from a structural point of view, you have to understand that there's been a science that has dedicated itself to understanding this. And by and large, for whatever reason, in America, they separate these two fields of study when they go hand in hand. That would be sociology, the study of groups and the study of groups of people, and psychology. Yes, one is more individual, and yes, the other one is more group, but it's like you're trying to understand a math equation with only half the problem. doesn't make sense, which is why I approach everything as a gestaltist. And never heard of that word. It would largely go to show you that in America, they don't want you to understand the overall science of psychology. Very interesting when you get into like aspects of hypnosis, this and that, neuro-linguistic programming. The discussion can go on forever. So I kind of wanted to point to a video because this way I feel less anxious about me speaking all the freaking time. Let me turn that on. Oh no. Either way, yeah, this is good.
I realized wasn't that these people were trying to feed me a lie.
They just cared about you.
Exactly. They were trying to feed me what they thought was
Which
right.
is a lie.
Hold on. It's not that they were lying to me.
They didn't know they were lying.
Okay, exactly. So
yes, that's why I'm angry. Because everything.
Now, if most people are unaware, that's Abba, and this is Sneeko, the other guy, or the guy all the way over there. That's Sneeko, and this is Abba. Essentially, what's going on here is the discussion. So Abba's trying to conflate the issue of these are issues, right? So he's conflating that Sneeko and everything he's talking about, and he's conflating it to that the only reason you talk about the issues you talk about and you do what you do is because you're an angry individual. And you don't need to vent your anger out this way because there are clear explanations as to why the world it is the way it is. And this discussion solves itself. I like the way Sneeko puts it, where we've all been lied to. It's not their fault. I'm not angry at them. And Sneeko makes it a bigger issue where it's like, yeah, we're talking about how men and women are interacting, but this issue is far larger. And I don't know. Watching. So earlier this morning, I talked about a video that someone made a very interesting video. I watched a video that reminded me of what this other person was talking about, and there was always this issue with how we as individuals are corrupted. And from some of the Gnostic text that I have read in relation to divine feminine and divine male, it goes hand in hand with understanding the psychological warfare that currently goes on in the minds of men and women, with making sure that our decisions or our thinking is stuck in particular patterns. And the reason why I say that is because of pornography. There was a study that I saw that or I don't even know, but it was a study that said that the more men watch porn, the more their mind stays in an infantile state. Like it stays at a younger mind and doesn't fully mature. And right, so I've been doing like NoFap for like years now. But remembering at that particular time when I was kind of still masturbating, it really now I think back on it, and there was this level of a brain fog that I was just living under. And it wasn't just me, right? So when I got more into NoFap, I started asking like both genders this anytime I was in a different Discord group. And I would hear a lot of people, like when I got into fasting, if you tell somebody not to eat, they freak the fuck out, right? So when I started telling people about this NoFap and stuff like that, some people just did not want to let go of this the stimulus, right? They didn't want to let go of that aspect of their life, and to see that be a reoccurring pattern everywhere, and to see how kind of like a junkie, like they need their fix. And I thought this was just a male issue, but let's just say I spoke to somebody who was highly religious, and they themselves had this issue. It was a reoccurring thing, and it just made me think of so I tend to believe very weird ideas, and I would say over a year ago I felt that I had met somebody that was of let's just say the equivalent to a modern day oracle, or I had assumed so because of certain things that were said, and I thought it was very interesting, where right? Like you would only know these things if you knew what I knew. So I never told this person that, but it made me think, like, is this right? Because every culture has had some form of like shamanistic trait, and it made me wonder, like, is this why we're both required to be distortions of our energies? Because if we were in tune with whatever natural state it would be, I don't know. I'm always kind of reverse engineering this in terms of we naturally want to live one way, but the world itself tells us to live another way. So let's get back to the video.
People believe
Breathe,
it is
breathe,
a-
breathe, 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 breathe. Bring it down, bring it down, bring it down.
Yeah, why bring it down?
Hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on.
Let's just
hold on.
relax
I
and give up
understand.
pussy.
I understand your rage because I've been there. I just want you to hear me. Okay.
I hear you.
So when my parents are saying all this stuff, I'm realizing the intention that they came at me with, and it made me resent them a lot less because I understood the misconceptions that they were taught. Right.
I understand that
And
too.
so, hold on. So once I realized that, it kind of hit me that a lot of people who are doing wrong things to me, or maybe the way that society's structured in some ways, are doing wrong things to me, isn't necessarily because they have evil intentions. Sometimes it's
Bro, that's obvious. That's some obvious stuff. I know that because everybody's brainwashed. It's not their fault they make no sense. They tell us to make no sense. So I'm trying to wake people the fuck up. Everything you believe in is a lie. The government doesn't care about you. School is a scam. All the fucking history books are lies. We need to wake up and stop letting them control us. I'm not mad at my parents. I'm mad at the fucking system. I'm not mad at the dumb girl who believes in this nonsense. I'm mad at the people who brainwashed them in the first place. It's bigger than that. It's bigger than just the people in your circle. It's the whole thing. In control, does not give a fuck about us.
And, you know, like, Sneeko is getting straight to the heart of the issue. It's like, fuck the individualistic action. Fuck the individual in this case, because it is not the individual's fault. And this is the same conclusion I came to forever ago when I was a kid and I would visit, right? I lived in LA. I visited Texas, New York. I got to see 3 different distinct geolocations. And every time I went back to Mexico to visit for whatever vacation, I'd wonder what ultimate decisions led to the infrastructure being the way they are now. And, you know, thinking along those lines, you'll get to answers that people don't want to hear. You'll get to ideas that people do not want to hear because it challenges their view of how life is, how all of it was. So, either way, let's get back to it. And I want you to understand that Abba really reminds me of a cousin of mine. His name is Jordan. He's from Chicago. And every time I would explain these ideas to Jordan, like, you know, it's something that I specifically would see with Gen X. So, like, the generation older than mine. So, like, my older sisters. They find it very difficult to believe that aspects of their reality were that fake. And it's normal to have that feeling, especially when you got to live in a generation where the propaganda was the best. So whatever sleeper cell programming you got was way better than whatever we got, because for whatever reason, some people would point to indigo children and just the progression of each generation and how, you know, there's a whole lot of other woo-woo that I can get into that could explain why we're moving in the way we're moving. Some people point to Project Looking Glass and the timelines are all converging. I don't know. I'm merely just an observer. Either way, let's go.
Saba.
I don't believe that. I don't
Name
believe that.
one
I don't believe that.
politician.
I don't believe that.
Name a good politician.
Hold on. I don't believe that. We have some right here locally in Montreal.
Locally.
Relax, man. I do a lot of stuff within the community that I live in. Okay, I'm involved with some people. We set up community centers. We set up stuff like that. Really important stuff that's important to me. We work with government officials who help us get the funding. What I'm trying to tell you is, I understand your displeasure. I understand the fact that you're like, man, the government's fucking up all this stuff. What I'm trying to tell you is that there are still people that you can work with that can do some change locally. What I think is, hold up, breathe. I think people are so terminally online that they look at these problems on the whole and they're looking at the canvas, not realizing there's a small picture right in front of them.
Okay.
If you spend so much time online trying to solve the world issues, what you end up realizing is you can do nothing because the problem is too expensive. But if most of us
give up.
focus on the shit happen in our communities,
Okay.
there's a lot more that we can tangibly do to make a world a better place. And I'm just gonna finish on this last point, okay? I was very fortunate that when I was a young man, I had somebody who wanted to help me at a really.
I'm going to pause here because I feel like it goes too far, but he brings up this whole issue of you can't solve these issues because they're too large. And somebody, I can't remember when I got into this argument, but I remember getting into an argument with someone about how this was an online argument. So I know I've had this argument with other people, and if you watch this, not you. But this was specifically on 4chan from what I remember. And somebody was telling me that these events and all of these things would have occurred even without Donald Trump going into the presidency. And I replied to him, oh yeah, dude, I believe that if Donald Trump didn't win, and if it would have been anybody else, the Clinton Foundation would have closed its doors, Terramar would have been shut down, Jeffrey Epstein would have been jailed and then suicided. Like, when you start naming these key events and you start suggesting that they would have naturally gone to jail, you're delusional, because you're not really considering that who were the customers of these organizations, the same people that are refusing to move forward with these prosecutions. People seem to forget that there is a process, a due process to things. There is a decision that gets to be ultimately made for those things not to go forward. It's not one central entity that gets to make the decision that, oh, Donald Trump can just get all the soldiers and do this at willy-nilly. That's unilateral authority, and doing that would be various forms of dictatorship, and it breaks so much procedure that, you know what I mean? There's reasons why our government has checks and balances. But, you know, I digress. But going back to the issue that Abba brought up is, you know, you need to do more locally, and he's not wrong. Like, he's right. Like, there's so much that you need to do locally, because I just recently watched a report talking about how there were just certain groups of people that were controlling the voting aspect in certain regions in America. So it's like, it's crazy to imagine that only one single group of people got to manage voting in key districts for centuries. That's insane. And nobody ever questioned their management of this, right? So running into where we are now, a lot needed to happen in order for an actual natural organic workforce in order to take these roles and these positions. Because for far too long, too much cheap labor and too many people were I don't know. I always believe that they are very selective with who they get to pick for certain key jobs. And one of the ones that I always remember was a single mother who had children. She had federal prison on her record, and she was the one that testified against Dominion, showing that she was that like ghetto ratchet lady that went on the news, and she was in front of the court, and she's all like, "Did you sign a subpoena? Because I signed a subpoena, so I can go to jail." Like, it was funny as fuck. But either way, that lady, if you look into her record, if somebody is choosing the people that get to go into these rooms that count the votes, her record would have been red flags, and it would have suggested some form of prejudice against one or the other candidates. Right? Looking at a single mother with a felony record, on various forms of government assistance, you would assume that she's a Democrat, but it turned out to be the opposite. And she was the one blowing the whistle on her employer, who was a private employer that wasn't even directly linked to Dominion. So it's like Dominion's offsetting these jobs by only hiring from job centers. And primarily, if you look at the demographics of people who go to job centers, I'm pretty sure statistically, on average, you would find out that they're mostly Democratic. So I'm just saying, if you knew demographics like sociology, the study of groups of people, you would understand that purely based on people's record, you can assume what they would vote in or what they would lean towards. And the fact that they hired this lady just suggested to me that whoever was picking these hires was choosing very specific criteria. That's just one instance. So I don't know. I'm just gonna go back to the video. I got lost in my thought.
Pivotal point in my life. Okay, somebody who worked in the government. Now, when this person helped me, they didn't understand the kind of influence I would later have later on them. But they unintentionally, by focusing on their community, helped breed somebody who in the future can help people on a larger scale. I think too many people are so busy to be like, oh my God, there's a typhoon in Taiwan. Oh my God, Sri Lanka is going underwater. There's riots in Tibet. All this stuff. It's like, bro, you don't even know what's happening across the street. You ain't been to your local community center to volunteer for 1 hour. People are spending so much time consuming everything everywhere, they forgot to just be in their own fucking house. So go deal with your family. That's why Jordan Peterson says, go clean your fucking room, okay? They're saying these things because we're always taking a global approach to everything, when really you just got to slow some things down. So that's my
But from the top, they're trying to ruin the home. Divorce rates are at an all-time high. They're telling us to stay inside. Even if we like go clean up the fucking trash on a beach, then they tell you to quarantine. Then they tell you to stay inside. Ultimately, like, yes, you could do local stuff, but the top powers have.
Like, I just want to mention really quickly, I don't know if anybody saw Abba just kind of like wiping the sweat, because even if we were to do what he said and do things at a community level and do things from door to door, mouth to mouth, person to person, well, that was nipped in the butt after when? 2020. Like that, that's why I look at it from the perspective of, why would they have a simulation simulating these very peculiar ways of living life, and we've never went back from that? And now they've created these divisive lines where people conflate, being science deniers, where being this or being that, right? They've created these binaries in order for, if you actually do get to communicate with somebody, are they wearing a mask or not? What is their status on the vaccine? Like, et cetera, et cetera. The issue just gets worse and worse, et cetera.
More control, and like, yeah, okay, your local politicians, blah blah blah, the comptroller of Montreal, sure, but they don't have any power in the large scale. The people who control us the most have all of the money. Like, the local stuff going on, like, it has a minor effect on what's really happening. And I'm pissed off that the top people control us more than anything, and people don't realize that. So I'm trying to talk to the people on the stream and tell them what's actually happening, because people are like, well, the mayor of Wisconsin, bro, who gives a fuck? They don't have any power.
Here's my challenge to you. Go get involved in local initiatives, whether it be.
No offense, this is kind of when I clocked out, because I'm like, I understand. I did the soup kitchen stuff. I volunteered when I was in high school. I did all that. I understand where Abba's coming from. But I think it's running away from the overall issue, because I think it's not Abba who's trying to protect anybody. And in reality, I just think he finds it very difficult to wrap his head around this issue because it's too big. And from whatever programming he got that created him as a person, he doesn't see it as that big of an issue to tackle. That wasn't his internal programming, is what I'm kind of getting from this. Is because I saw the same thing with my cousin Jordan, where I would talk about issues that were far bigger than him, and to him, it didn't affect him personally enough to matter, until I brought up ways that it did matter to him. Like, my cousin Jordan is white, but he grew up in what was the area that he grew up in? Heavily black area. So his mannerisms are he literally acts like a Chicago person. Like, I don't know how to put it. So for him, these issues don't really matter until I tell him, like, dude, it doesn't matter where you grew up, because some of these people are crazy enough that they'll only care about the surface level of what you look like, and they'll make their ultimate decision within 3 seconds. It doesn't matter. And then It didn't matter to him, and I told him, well, think about the 2 nephews that we have who live in Watts. They're completely white. They're even blonde, and they even have colored eyes. So you're going to tell me that I should also give in to your ideology when I have family members who would get hurt, seriously injured for years, just because you want me to believe in this false ideology of melanin? Like, I don't know. And when I started kind of pointing out, you know, the in-between family that we have, and he started realizing that they could get hurt. And it all comes down to an issue of privilege or this or that. And he started kind of waking up more to it at that point in time because they started targeting more of the kids. This was all in 2018, 2019, whatever. So he caught up to these issues fairly quick. But at the time, it was just so difficult, especially when like the George Floyd stuff happened, et cetera, right? America used as a vehicle, right? Using its citizens to push all this loose form garbage just to create bumps and trends in order to create that ambiance of like, oh, they're doing it, oh, I should do it too. Like, that's how it should go, right? Either way, let's see what else.
Community center. Go do stream it, and then cut his lives. Or didn't
Not because it's actually helping the global problem. You're helping it. You're gonna do. Tell us.
you've experienced.
Yeah, either way.
I'm gonna just share one personal thing. That's it.
Okay. That was that with this. I'm gonna go to this now. Where, all right, so my buddy Pox, shout out to you because you gave me the idea for the last video and you gave me the idea for this video. Where was it with this video? So this video is basically an update to just events that have occurred. The guy says it in the video where he's just basically collected data points from infrastructure attacks or places that you would consider as infrastructure. Like I said before, anything that produces, anything that's a processing plant, any place that's a farm, right? Not that long ago, I saw like, I can't remember what country it was, but they were setting fire to a bunch of their places. And somebody opened this garage door. Hold on. Either way. Beyond that, this is from the southeast to east central Midwest to southwest, west, and then suspicious fires. From suspicious fires, he's really only collected from June to July. And these specific fires are in relation to Christian churches and like any place of worship, etc., etc. But to see all of these events occur from the beginning of the year to now, and how do I say this idea? Especially because I'm being distracted by my buddy setting up for his workout. Understanding infrastructure as a whole is understanding that people depend on these places for jobs and they depend on them for product. So when we look at the farmer issue as a whole, we should look at, I think, what was the interesting stat that I learned about Russia? I think Russia produces 80 to 90% of globally, like, fertilizer. Or I think that was just for the American market, that we independently buy all of their fertilizer for here and for farm use. Looking at the issue with the Netherlands, Panama, I think what we've largely seen, or at least in my opinion, is there is some form of apparatus that understands where all of the farming is occurring and where it happens. Now I'm incredibly nervous and I'm a bit hot. Right, inteligencia. There is a form or an apparatus or a group of something that understands these key infrastructure points. And beyond that, we could also you can kind of gather just data, like how many of these fires occurred naturally from the years of 2014 to 2016. What was their rate of occurrence? What were their average numbers? Comparing them to the last 2 years, etc., etc. I've watched a video like this, and it's kind of a sad thing because you can't just type that in on YouTube and get a simple, clear, concise answer because the algorithm is cooked, just the way that banking books are cooked. Either way, shout out to the U.S. bank getting caught because their employees were making fake accounts on their their customers making other bank accounts just to meet quotas. Either way, funny stuff that happens. Right? Suspicious occurrences that just keep on piling up. And I think a new one that I just saw was a Sony executive getting put away for certain specific charges. If you're privy to you know what's going on. Yeah, Danny, what's up? Likes to feel special sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Shout out to Poppy Smoke, you know what I mean? Either way, back to the points of infrastructure. Something is keeping track of all this. Something is making ultimate decisions or allowing these sort of events to happen. Because if you're an insurance company, if you were the insurance company that had to deal with all of these things going on, you would look at there must be something that is making all of these things occur at a more bigger rate. And I would largely assume that the companies that are in with what's going on would probably just say, oh no, it's global warming. That's what's making all this occur. But depends on what you believe. Either way. So yeah, I've never heard of this YouTube channel, S2 Underground. And I say that even though I'm in a Telegram group where I've seen that logo on t-shirts. So I know about it, I don't know about it. Either way. Great work on this dude, keeping track of just that. And then we have kinetic incidents where he shows, right, like this dude getting stabbed and then him getting released and then the FBI picking him up. Like there are just these variety of instances where it's just like either something is going on or nothing is going on. There needs to be a clear, ultimate, fine line between any of this. Either way, I don't know. Great stuff from him. Kinetic incidents in the Southwest. So he keeps track of targets, vandalism. You know what I mean? Like this dude is basically doing the work that normally would only be assumed by like insurance companies or people who are keeping track of this. I think at this point in time, he starts talking about how certain webcams in certain areas were just going offline. And he even brings it up where, because he's been doing this for so long, he's just like, well, this only really occurs when military planes are in the air, and for national security reasons, they have to turn them off, because a lot of these webcams, although they're not pointing to anything significant and they're pointing to the sky, sometimes these cameras do need to go offline because other countries do monitor these webcams. And it would be, and I think I love the way he said it, where it would be stupid to assume that these countries don't, especially when live feeds are just available for anybody to watch. Yes, would they actually pay somebody to watch these stupid streams all day? To normal people, that would be retarded. But when you start realizing that there are entire apparatuses just to keep track of like one individual and every single person that person talks to, and then, right, the 2-hop rule, basically monitoring one person, monitoring who they talk to, and monitoring who they speak to, right? Because they're trying to build webs, RICO cases, da-da-da-da-da. I'm just saying, these are just merely things. And why did I do that? Because now that is weird that I'm showing what's on my screen. Yeah. Either way. Yeah, S2 Underground. Really great YouTube channel. I might actually put that in the description or in the comment section below. But America trademark. Yeah, there are a lot of strange events, and coming down to me just wanting to keep track of these strange occurrences or seeing how these events unfold. Reason why I think it's meaningful is because there was a current modus operandi, a motive. There was an agenda that was clearly aimed at Syria, that was clearly aimed at establishing all of these forms of counteractment. Because one of the craziest things, I'm rewatching a lot of my like conspiracy material that I watched like years ago, and one of the most interesting things I heard somebody talk about in 2015 were how NATO began positioning itself and mounting somewhat of a line of defense, or just mounting and posturing along the Russian border. And this was back as 2015. So, we, like, if you know that Europe has had this long-standing issue with the Russians. But that's not the point. The point is, stringing all that along, seeing that these events are not just occurrences of like today, looking at certain things that were passed in the 2014 bill for Ukraine, looking at the sort of funding that they got for certain defense programs, looking at the people who liaison those deals between firms, seeing the leaks of emails currently, like seeing all of this occur in this fashion should be an alarm sign, or should ring some bells and let you know that something is occurring, but in large part. There are a lot of theories that go from help from extraterrestrials, and how you interpret the word extra and terrestrial largely differs based on what group you're dealing with. Then you have the whole thing with white, gray, and black hats. I don't know. I came from the aspect of war between what occurs online, because that's the only thing I've ever cared about. But yeah, I'm gonna continue just this episodic series called America Trademarked Episode 1, Strangest Events, because it's the best way for me to categorize everything we're currently watching unfold, because it's not entirely clear what it all is, but one thing is for sure, you can clearly identify what special interest groups have what at stake. And one of the largest in this case would be Russia, knowing that Europe has had this issue with Russia, and it's all been in relation to oil, and it's all been in relation to these energy capacities. So it's kind of why it should be a funny, contentious issue that we want to move to an electric future, when 80 to 70% of all of our electricity is produced by coal. People just don't want to understand these issues in large part because they just think electricity magically appears. But it just gives a bigger hold and a bigger monopoly of control on these people, to these people, because remember, they want to put a gauge on everything. They want to make sure that they keep track of your energy usage. And I think this is the way that they've solved their issue, because what happens when a ruler begins to lose control of his kingdom? He begins to overreach, and he begins to implement these sort of systems that would allow him total control, but in doing so, they always overreach their hand. And it is why God always wins. That's a very popular phrase. I think I'm going to end that here. I don't know. I just want to say so much, but I can't, because this is not the place to do it. And I'm probably going to run away. I don't know what to say.